Lotus is a company that is often forgotten about, purely out of the scarcity of their cars. In modern times, they seem to be getting more recognition, and cars like the latest Evora GT are exactly why. In an age where everything is about horsepower, the Evora GT gets all the intangibles perfectly right. For less than 100 grand, you can have an exotic, mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, stick-shift sports car with the reliability of a Toyota. Although in the past Lotus has been glanced over by many, the time to look is now, as the Evora GT is truly spectacular in all facets of performance. Let's take a deeper look at what makes the Lotus Evora so special, and showcase what the car is like from behind the wheel. We'll start off by taking a look into the heart of the 2021 Evora GT, the entire drivetrain. The engine found in the middle of the car and easily visible through a glass window in the hatch is a supercharged Toyota 2GR V6 engine. This 3.5 liter is one of Toyota's most reliable engines ever made, with many naturally aspirated variants seeing north of 300,000 miles. The version Lotus has constructed makes 416 horsepower and gets the Evora to 60 in just under 4 seconds. Such acceleration figures make the car feel as fast as possible without entering the territory of unwanted wheel spin. The supercharger is rather quiet, and the low-end torque is surprisingly strong. When at high RPM, you can really feel the supercharger getting the car to pull harder all the way up to its 7,000 RPM redline. In terms of sound, I'll be the first to admit that a V6 has always been my least favorite sounding engine configuration. Yet, through some form of exhaust wizardry, the Evora is honestly one of my favorite sounding cars ever. One of the best aspects of a Lotus is how exotic they look for the price tag that they can be found for, and the 2GR certainly puts out a sound that matches. Another cool feature of the engine is the visible throttle body. From the cabin, there is a glass window visible in the rear view mirror where the throttle body is on the front of the engine. When you tap the throttle pedal, you can watch it be pulled open at the same time, a really neat feature to display the mechanical intricacies of the car. And as mesmerizing as the engine is, I would argue the transmission is even better. The weighted shift knob and the precise shifts are what you're looking for, and I can't put into words how satisfying it feels. Crisp is the best word that I can think of, and when paired with a light clutch that has a short throw, you'll find yourself shifting more than you actually need to. Earlier I mentioned how the intangibles are what make the Evora, and what I mean by that is the driving dynamic. Cars in a similar price range like the Porsche Cayman are very fast, but can somewhat feel clinical in that the whole car is built around trying to go as fast as possible. That's great, however the Evora offers something else. It's playful and just feels like a higher level Miata with way more power. The short wheelbase and lightweight just adds something to the car that can't be found on a spec sheet. And although it is indeed quick, you can tell the main design goal was engagement and enjoyment of the person behind the wheel. For these reasons, and many others, it's not uncommon to find one of these on a track. The suspension is outsourced using Bilstein stocks and Ibach springs, a phenomenal combo. Pair this with Michelin Cup 2 tires from the factory, and you have yourself a car that is lethal on a track. On top of all of that, the Evora has AP Racing brake calipers that stop the car tremendously and include an awesome feature for track use. Instead of having to remove the caliper bolt for a brake pad change, it can all be done from the outside of the caliper in roughly a minute per wheel. So if you want to swap in some track pads for a track day and then return to street pads after, it's no hassle and it's made to do exactly that. I'll briefly cover the exterior because you don't need me to tell you how well Lotus did with this design. It's obvious that they knocked it out of the park. Place this car next to any Lamborghini, Ferrari, or McLaren and it doesn't look even a little out of place, despite costing a literal fraction and offering a manual transmission. To me, this car as a whole feels like a high-performance exotic for a crazy discount. Every vent on the outside is functional, and the car doesn't have a bad angle. The rear end looks quite like an Alfa Romeo 4C, a car designed with a similar principle, and I love the way that the carbon aero and rear wheel vents blend into the back. One of the more notable things about the latest Evora GT is the interior updates. If you've ever seen or looked into the older work from Lotus, you might remember the Elise having metal floorboards or the interiors just generally looking like they were from a kit car. Here, I barely recognize this as a Lotus. The attention to detail and the build quality was a welcome surprise with a beautiful yet simple design. Everything that the driver interacts with is well done, the wheel made of a high grip material and the shift knob a rounded metal that feels nice to use. The gauge cluster is my personal favorite part, being fully analog and lighting up white and red, a great match for the red paint on this particular car. The seats have fine red stitching and are very comfortable. I would take this car on a road trip without question. Storage is a bit of an issue with the small trunk, but the rear seats are also some extra storage because it is truly impossible to fit a human being back there. It seems the only shortcoming is the infotainment with an outsourced head unit that feels outdated, and very minimal control systems. Although, if I'm being honest, with the sound that this car produces, that radio is staying off. Just above the head unit are some of the performance controls, most notably the mode change, which adjusts the valves in the exhaust. In Tour or Sport mode, the car is actually quite livable and hard to hear, but Race mode lets that engine sing and disables traction control, which is how I drove the car the entire day. Speaking of driving the car, now that I've given my thoughts and shared some special features about it, I'm going to leave you with the uninterrupted driver's eye view that the Evora GT really deserves. The exhaust is in race mode, the microphone is outside of the car, so you're hearing what it sounds like from the road. Enjoy. The Evora is a car that sounds, looks, and performs at the level of an ultra-exotic supercar, yet it costs far less and boasts the reliability of a Toyota engine. After spending enough time with this car, I've started to question if owning something more expensive and higher level is even worth doing. Put simply, the Evora is just everything an enthusiast wants in a car, without the fear and worry that comes with owning something that's worth the price of a house and can ruin your bank account with one repair bill. I'm glad that Lotus is starting to get the recognition that it deserves, because I can confidently say that the Evora GT is one of the most fun driver's cars ever made, and leaves very little to be desired. This has been a car review with Running to Redline. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.